A very good morning and welcome once more to the Did You Know segment. Me, your host, Libyan. Right here is where we inform you about everything that you need to know about Africa and all the things that you need to know about the world. So today we're going to look at 5 most powerful kings who ever existed in Africa. And without further ado, remember to like, subscribe and share on RNI TV, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. And without wasting any more time, let's begin. On our top list, that is number 1, we have Mansa Musa, who is the greatest and the richest king of all time. Up to now, he is one of the richest people who has ever existed. As in, even the top richest person right now in the world, Mansa Musa is still the top richest person. So many of you will be asking, who is this Mansa Musa? Mansa Musa was a Malian Empire king who existed in the 1300s. And he traded mostly with the salt that is in his Malian Empire, which was also he traded with places like with places like Venice, that is Italy, Genoa, and Egypt. You know, Egypt was just some miles away from Mali. Mali was predominantly previously a Muslim country that mainly worshipped the Islamic god who is Allah, and actually they dealt with a lot of things. Mansa Musa was known to be a very generous king. He owned gold. It is said that he once traveled all the way to Mecca and he gave gold to the people along the streets. That's how rich that person was. And someone will be asking, how wealthy was this guy? He was worth $415 billion. Wow, $415 billion. That's approximately some few trillion shillings. Of course, you can do the calculation and leave the calculation at the comment below. That is $415 billion. And so this guy existed and reigned for 25 years. That is from 1312 to 1327. There are records of this guy. There are even some pictures of this guy that were drawn and were put there. So Mansa Musa was one of the wealthiest and still is the wealthiest person of all times. And of course, he ruled the African Malian Empire in the 14th century, and Mali was a very well-known country. We're going to look at several more kings that are going to be so known in the Malian Empire. We know, fact check. Did you know that the first university in the world was built in Timbuktu, Mali? Wow, now you need to know about that. So on to number 2, we have Sani Ali Bar, also known as Sani Ali the Great. So Sani Ali Bar was the first Songian king of the Sani dynasty and also the 15th ruler, and he captured many cities and villages within Mali, and also he was founded in the Timbuktu. Remember Timbuktu, there's a lot of history around Timbuktu. Okay, wherever you are, it depends with your pronunciation. I pronounce it as Timbuktu, you can pronounce it as Timbuktu, you know, it is how you pronounce it, but it is Timbuktu, Mali. That is in 1468 and 1475. He was one of the greatest kings of that time. He conducted a reprise policy that is against the scholars of Timbuktu, because there were many scholars during that time. You know, most people used to leave from Greek to come and study in Timbuktu. Many people from Egypt used to come and study in Timbuktu. There's a lot of history going around Timbuktu. Remember, just earlier I've just talked about Mansa Musa, who was one of the greatest empires of all time. And then especially those in the Soninke region, and he was also associated with the Tuaregs, who were actually, they are a desert tribe. Up to now, the Tuaregs are the desert tribes, and mostly they wear those wigs and all that. I'm going to show you a picture of the Tuaregs just there at the back of them. And then this guy used to gain a lot of control by use of these Tuaregs and the Berbers. The Berbers were also the very significant people who used to fight during those times. They were very significant. They were like the Moors during the time of, I'm going to do this video on the Ottoman Empire of this guy called Mehmed the Great. Okay, so let me read that part. So there were the Moors. The Moors were from Spain, and these guys fought against there was this guy called the Ottoman Empire, which I'm going to do. His name was called Mehmed the Great. Mehmed the Great, who was a 21-year-old ruler. Okay, there's nothing big about that. You see, even in the World Cup, there was a 21-year player of the match. So 21 years, Alexander the Great, Mehmed the Great was able to conquer Constantinople at such a tender age. So there's something about the 21 years. Ask yourself, what have you done with your 21 years of your life? So Mehmed the Great, so there was the Moors who used to fight for this. So there were the Berbers. The Berbers were like the Moors who fought against the Ottoman Empire. So we're going to look at that in our next video. And he ruled the Muslim and other northern and Muslim areas. You know, there were Muslim and Christians. There was the first crusade that happened in Africa in the 1100 AD. So there were the crusaders who came to fight against the Muslims in Africa. So chances are they converted some Muslims into Christians. So this Sani Aliba was a ruler of all these people. But some of you will wonder how he died. He died when crossing the river Niger in 1492. But other accounts has it that his sister killed him and assassinated him. But the one that has more weight was he died in river Niger crossing. Also, in the next video I'm going to do of a king who went all the way to America. He traveled all the way to America. This Malian king. There was an African who traveled all the way to America to go and just explore. So it might not be Amerigo Vespucci who the one we used to know. So it was not Amerigo Vespucci who was the first one to visit America. Actually, we're going to see that Malian king who went all the way to America. On to number 3, we have Askia the Great. Askia the Great also was from Mali. He was born as Mohammed Taure, and he was of the Tuareg community. He was an empire and a military commander and a political reformer. He was born from the Soninke group. You see, there's something about the Soninke, Yoruba, and the Tuaregs that we need to find out, and I'll do a video on that, why they have such great empires and all that. So there was the Soninke, Madinka, there was the Tuaregs, and there is now this guy from the Soninke community who was the Askia the Great, and he was an empire in the 15th century. And then there's something to do with the 15th and the 14th century that we need to consider also, that I'm going to do a video on that. What it is that made these Malian and Western African countries to be so great during the 14th, 15th and 13th century. And he was born from the Soninke group. He was made empire from Kano, northern Nigeria. Wow. Now we hear also of Nigeria. Of course, last video we did of the greatest queens of Nigeria, and we saw there was Ashantewa, who was all the way from Nigeria, and there was the Ifo Ike group also. So there's something I'm going to do these videos with you. I'm going to keep informing you. Remember, this is our platform for knowing and getting to know more. And then he expanded and invaded his trade to Europe. So of course the immediate European countries could be Spain, Portugal, and the likes. So those were where he used to do his trades. Of course Turkey and the likes. That is where he used to do his trades. And he also did his trades also in Asia, leading to the creation of schools. You know, Asia, the likes of India, China, those were the major traders of that time. So the Persian, the Palestinian countries, of course, they used to trade with rice and all that. So it led to the creation of schools and more learning activities, and also the establishment of Islam, and also an integral part of the society, which was the Islamic culture, which was the integral part of the society. So they really focused on that. And he died 10 years after his rule from 1538 and was buried at Gao. So at 1538, 10 years later, that is 1548, that's when he died and was buried in a place called Gao. I believe it's somewhere in Nigeria. On to number 4, we have Shaka Zulu. Like I promised you on the last video that I'm going to do a video on Shaka Zulu. So here it is. So Shaka Zulu was a king, or rather he was the king of the South Africans. Of course, you've heard about him. Last time I talked about his mother called Nandi, but he was born from a chief. And this chief was actually the leader of the Shaka Zulu. He was born in 1787. Of course, people will be like, 1787, Africa had not started records. Remember, South Africa was colonized by the Dutch. That was in the 16th century. So these guys had started learning how to keep records. So they had started putting records of these people, of the Africans and the like. So they had this African record of Shaka Zulu. So Shaka Zulu was born by the name of Shaka Kansenza Ngwakoha. Shaka Kansenza Ngwakoha. Okay, let me repeat that name. Shaka Kansenza Ngwakoha. I'll put it on the screen. Shaka Kansenza Ngwakoha. Of course, he was born in 1787. His father was a chief, and when Shaka was still a young boy, his father drove him and his mother out of the village, and soon became part of the clan of a powerful chief named Dingiswaya. So after he was thrown out, of course, we do not know what happened. I assume there was marriage, but I'm not sure what happened. But after being thrown out, Dingiswaya absorbed these two people, that is Nandi, the queen, and Shaka. And how to be a warrior. And Nandi, very soon, Nandi, who was the major pillar of Shaka Zulu. Remember last time I told you Nandi was the advisor of Shaka Zulu. So when Nandi died, that was later, Shaka became so brutal. He was one of the brutalest warriors. Of course, it reminds me of one of these Russian leaders called Vlad the Dracula. I'll talk about him very soon. Vlad the Dracula, the Impaler. And then also I'll talk of this guy called Ivan the Terrible, who did a lot of vampire things and all that because his wife died and all that. We're going to talk about that in the next videos, I promise you that. So Shaka Zulu, his mother, who was the greatest pillar and also his advisor in matters how he's going to rule the kingdom, died. And this led him to be heartbroken. And by this being heartbroken, he swore that that 1 year people will mourn his mother. And if you are not going to mourn his mother, he was going to kill you. And by the end of that year, 7,000 people were killed just because they refused to mourn Nandi, the mother of Shaka. Remember, Shaka was a very brutal king. So people were wondering, why should we mourn the mother of a brutal king? So 7,000 of them died, and he ordered the killing of pregnant women. So if you were found out to be pregnant, you were killed. Imagine missing your periods, such a moment. So he killed all those people, and again, he said that people will not use milk. I don't know what was the significance of all this. You are not supposed to use milk, you're not supposed to be pregnant, and you're not supposed to refuse to mourn his mother. So eventually, Shaka Zulu was assassinated in 1828 at a tender age of just 39 years. Terrible death for a great king. So he was assassinated and marked and was buried in an unmarked grave. Before we go to the last one, who we are going to save for last, I would like you to like, subscribe, and share. Remember, the first 500 people who are going to like and subscribe are going to get 100 years of pure luck. That means your generation will never lack anything. So like, subscribe, and share. And of course, the first person to comment is going to get my first reading of the comment of the first segment over there, on the first comment over there. So the fifth king who was the most powerful and actually can be traced from the Bible was called Shishak or Shishuk or Shoshena. Others call him Totemei, the Pharaoh. So he was found in Egypt. That was in 945 BC and 924 BC. So we can trace his origin from the book of 1 Kings chapter 11 verse 40, and also how he went and captured Jerusalem in the book of 2 Chronicles chapter 12 verse 3 to 4. This is during the reign of King Solomon. Those of you who think the Bible doesn't exist, God doesn't exist, King Solomon doesn't exist, I'm giving you a platform of this. So in the book of 2 Chronicles chapter 12 verse 3 to 4, so we are talking about King Jeroboam, who Solomon had tried to pursue and wanted to kill. And King Jeroboam went and sought asylum all the way to Egypt. That is during the time of King Shishak. And when he went there until Solomon died, that is when King Jeroboam came up with King Shishak and went and attacked Jerusalem. That is according to the Chronicles. And it is said that King Shishak came with 60,000 horsemen. You can imagine, 60,000. He had like a crazy army that he was going to attack Jerusalem. I wonder how fortified this city was. Remember, it was the one of the wisest kings who had ever lived had just died. So as a punishment from God, the inhabitants of Israelites were to face a pagan who was going to come and bring them down. Remember, King Solomon had disobeyed God, and that led to all that. So 60,000 horsemen, and he had 1,200 chariots. This man had a massive army just to come and capture a city. So my guys, he was from a Libyan lineage, and he was from a loyal Libyan lineage, and he was led by a great chief called Meshwesh, or as their identity, from that lineage of the Libyan where Shishak came from. So guys, this is very interesting. We can trace all this in the Bible. They are all recorded in the articles in Malachi back to. So guys, keep it locked, keep sharing so that we can get more of this content. Like, subscribe, share, And always leave a comment below. And I thank you for always watching. Remember, this will always be uploading each and every Wednesday only on RNI TV. So keep it locked. My name is S. Pillar Caleb. God bless.